This is a video on natal Mars retrograde. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Mars retrograde in general means too, because Mars goes retrograde every 2 years and we were just in a retrograde period, so thank God we won't be in another one for another 2 years. Yes, I had a really crappy Mars retrograde. I feel like most people do, but ironically the people watching this video probably have great Mars retrogrades because you all have natal Mars retrograde. While Mars was retrograde, my parents went to this New York town called Lilydale. It's like a really old, really spiritual town. It's very cool. They got me this little doodad I wanted to show you guys. This is called a Lakshmi, and it represents eternal prosperity, which I thought was really cute that they got that for me because they know that I'm so broke. Okay, so now that that's all out of the way. So what does retrograde mean, first of all? Retrograde is when a planet looks like it's going in the sky on its orbit, and then from our earthly standpoint it looks like it stops and then turns around and goes backwards. No planet actually goes backwards on its orbit around the sun. It just looks like it does from where we are. What it actually represents is a time where things start to go backwards. Basically, the energy of that planet, it starts to become internalized and intensified. If you were born under this influence, then you're very special. You're all very special anyway. Mars, I call it your inner caveman, but it's basically like all the energy you use when you go to initiate something. It represents your sexuality, drives you towards action. So it's a really important planet. If you have Mars retrograde in your natal chart, it basically means that there was some sort of disconnect in your childhood. So you either didn't have a very good role model of what it meant to be like masculine, or you didn't properly express your anger or assert yourself. You just couldn't, like, you felt like oppressed or suppressed. You felt one of those. You just felt like you couldn't like do things. Like there's a disconnect somehow between your feeling inside, like I want to get up and do this, and then actually doing it. And sometimes, like if you're a female, for example, and you have Mars retrograde in your natal chart, sometimes you came from like a family that really didn't think females should be doing a lot of stuff considered to be boy things. So you might have like just totally suppressed it in yourself. Now, one thing about Mars, if you're feminine, so I don't want to say just if you're a woman, if you are more inclined towards your Venus sign, then you're going to project your Mars onto your partner. Now, I don't want to stereotype this placement because you can watch 1,000 videos on the internet and read 1,000 articles and they'll all say that this is like a weak placement for Mars and yada yada, but that's old school astrology, and we like to look at the things progressively, and we're going to look at them in a positive light because everything in your natal chart is either like a natural given talent or it's a challenge. And really what makes you stronger, things that you already are good at or the things that you have to get good at, they really shape who you are. I always look at any placement as having both good and bad, which if you watch my videos you obviously know already. So like I said before, a retrograde planet is one that is internalized. So that means that it's sort of an internal journey for you, and probably for the first half of your life you're going to be discovering what an initiator means to you specifically. It's ironic because you don't often see a whole lot on Mars retrograde or any retrogrades except maybe Mercury. It's such an interpersonal journey when you have a retrograde planet. And I have absolutely all of my outer planets retrograde. I don't have any inner planets retrograde, but I have some, pretty much all of them are intercepted in my natal chart, which acts a little bit like a retrograde planet. So I feel your pain. Something really important about this placement is that you're going to have to find creative ways to take action, to assert yourself, and later on, you know, when you're an adult, to express your sexuality, because sexuality is something that is under Mars's domain, and it's something that may prove to be a challenge for you. Some people with this placement will develop like sexual dysfunctions or just problems in the bedroom. Not everybody though, and even if you do, again, it's just you need to find other ways to express that part of your life. That's all it means. You might wait a long time, which is fine. Until you find just the right partner, you feel like things are just so. The main thing I think with this placement is the fact that you have trouble initiating new projects, asserting yourself. So that's the thing that you really have to get creative about. Something else about this placement is that this is probably the #1 placement for suppressing anger, or you feel like you're not allowed to, or if you try, it doesn't work. or you suppress it entirely and pretend it doesn't exist, and then eventually you just explode and you scare everybody around you. You have to let off steam. This is also a really intense placement for Mars, any sign, Mars retrograde, because a retrograde planet turns things inward and it intensifies the energy. It almost like focuses it. Although ironically you might hate physical activity, but it's so good for you. Yoga even, or something that lets you meditate kind of while you do it, like maybe just walking alone out in nature. I know some people, a lot of people in my family have Mars retrograde, so this is like a very passive aggressive placement for Mars. That's like a classic way to describe Mars retrograde. It's not necessarily manipulative, it's just, it doesn't like come out straight. I don't have to tell you, if you have this, you already know. So Mars retrograde in Aries, I know 2 people that have this. They're both female, and honestly they're like the most mild-mannered people ever. And it always surprised me because I have Mars in Aries and I'm like kind of in your face sometimes, especially when it comes to family. These 2 people are in my family and they're like so mild, but they both have like a very quiet inner strength. I think it's really important if you have Mars in Aries retrograde to definitely get some sort of physical activity, or else you get really pent up and then you start taking things out on other people. The other thing that can happen with Mars in Aries retrograde is you can like become the lamb instead of, okay, I've changed my mind. I'm not doing this through the signs. I just don't feel like it. If you have Mars retrograde in a water sign, it's going to be an emotional journey for you. So you're probably going to need like a creative outlet, something artistic, maybe even dance. Ironically, if you have Mars in Cancer retrograde, I feel like 2 passive aggressives make an aggressive. You can actually be a bit abrasive. But if you have Mars in a fixed sign, so Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, you have to be careful of pent-up aggression. It just explodes. If you have Mars retrograde in an earth sign, so Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, you're gonna be a worker and you might actually pour everything into your work. And that can be good, but it can also be bad if, for example, you're becoming unbalanced and unhealthy. Especially Mars in Virgo, like you can make yourself sick easily because that's what Virgo is. It's the connection between health and work. You can also become too detail-oriented with Virgo. I think Mars in the fire signs needs the most physical activity, and I know two of my family members have Mars in Sagittarius retrograde. One of them is my brother, and I feel like he just takes everything, and then he'll just have like a huge fit of explosion, anger. And then his daughter, my niece, hi Casey, she plays sports, like she's really good at sports, and that is a wonderful thing. If you have Mars in an air sign, you're going to be very in your head. This is a placement that really intellectualizes everything and is social. You might really have trouble acting on anything, especially if Mars in Libra. I mean, air signs like the concepts of things, but they don't necessarily like to put it into action. Action is really a fire sign thing, and the water signs are emotional. The earth signs do put things to work for sure, but they don't always have the inspiration. Air signs, they're just like talk. You know, it's good, they're very objective, but when it comes to Mars, this is your planet of action, so you want to get going. If you have Mars retrograde in an air sign, it might be extra hard for you to put your money where your mouth is. If you have Mars in a cardinal sign, so Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, the cardinal signs represent initiative, and Mars is usually pretty good in especially Aries and Capricorn, but if you have it retrograde, you might have a lot of false starts in life. Start, stop, because you've just got this sort of disconnect. And if you have Mars in a mutable sign, so Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, your energy could be spread too thin in Mars in any mutable sign. But retrograde, it's going to be extra hard for you to keep focused. Counter to that though, sometimes you get extra focused on things. Like you could either have the ADD or the ADHD. So that's all I've got for Mars retrograde. If you guys have any comments, like if you have Mars retrograde and you want to add something, just leave it in the comments, because I really don't have a ton of experience with this. It's such a personal inner journey. So if you have things you want to share with your fellow Mars retrograde people, then by all means share it. Well, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye. I don't really want to do this through the signs. I fucking hate it already. When you think about